Hey guys, Troy Francis coming at you from London town. So in this video I wanted to talk about the pain for a guy, the pain that a guy experiences when he isn't selected by women, or at least he's in a place in his life where he's not being selected by women. And this pain point, this terrible, deep frustration, but it's not a frustration, it's a mixture of frustration and sadness and bewilderment and yearning and longing and all of these different things put together. It's a very, very negative space to be in for guys, and different guys are going to handle it differently, hopefully. And I think this is the case with the majority of guys. They're going to use it as a spur for self-improvement. And the brilliant thing that we've got now with the internet, of course, is there's so much help out there, right? There's so much information out there. But back when I was at school or college, which was a long, long time ago now, back in the black and white days, you know, we didn't have internet, we didn't have smartphones. I mean, all the stuff that we've got now was like science fiction then. You know, this was going back a while. And at that point, I was absolutely hopeless in terms of dating and so on. I mean, I've been hopeless throughout my younger life. I wasn't particularly social anyway. You know, I wasn't that social. I was kind of introverted, you know, so I liked my own company. I preferred in many ways to be on my own. But I was also not very socially savvy. I found it difficult to make friends. I found it difficult to interrelate to other guys, you know, who were around me. I wasn't particularly sporty, and of course we know, you know, British culture, American culture, probably most cultures around the world, sport is the thing that bonds people together. I wasn't particularly sporty. I was quite good at like track and stuff like that, but football and things, I mean, we did football, we did rugby, we did cricket. Cricket I quite enjoyed. I wasn't particularly great at them. I mean, I wasn't particularly interested in them, I think is the thing. I was interested in the mind. I wasn't interested in physicality for a long time, and that's a whole other story really, but I think that impinged on my the way that I developed. But anyway, so I wasn't getting on particularly well with guys. I had some friends, but they were the kind of nerdy guys in the class. There weren't that many of them, and it wasn't just that I found it hard to make friends. I actually didn't aspire to it. You know, it wasn't even something I really wanted. I just wanted to go home and read a book or listen to music or whatever. So I wasn't getting on particularly well with guys, with classmates, and women, completely out of the question. You know, completely out of the question. Now, that's not to say that I didn't have friendships with some women or some girls who I knew at the time. I absolutely did. But in terms of it becoming anything more than that, that just wasn't on the cards for me. And you know, the real reason why that wasn't on the cards for me was because I feared rejection so much. And I don't know, looking back, where that fear of rejection really came from. It was just inherent in me. This idea that somebody could be repelled by me, they're not interested. That idea was so terrifying to me as a kid and as a young man that I would never risk taking any action. So if I liked a girl, then my strategy, and this is the strategy, by the way, that's adopted by a great many guys, you know, probably a majority of guys. I don't have the stats on this, but I'm sort of guessing, but probably a majority of younger guys use the strategy of, okay, I really like this girl, but I'm not going to put myself on the line. I'm not going to put myself out there for rejection. So I'm just going to kind of be friends with her, and I'm going to hope something happens. That was my strategy as a young guy. And I'm talking like teenager here, or, you know, teenager into young adult. My strategy was, right, I'm going to be friends with her, and I'm going to hope something happens. I'm going to hope firstly, that she recognises what an amazing guy I am, what an amazing catch I am. And secondly, I'm going to hope that she then... I didn't know how it was going to happen, you know. And I'm not even talking about sex. I'm just talking about how the process of us going from friendship or whatever that was to being boyfriend and girlfriend, which was kind of what I aspired to at that point. I didn't even know how that was going to happen, but I just hoped it would sort of just happen. Or basically what I was hoping for, actually, was that she would make the move. She would turn to me one day and say, hey, Troy, listen, I've realised how amazing you are. I've realised that we should be together. And then maybe she'd turn around and kiss me or something like that, and it would go from there. I was so terrified of rejection. I was so terrified of the thought of her, somebody, whoever it was at the time, rejecting me. As I say, I didn't take any action. I didn't do anything. And what that led to was a lot of nothing, basically. And what happened to me when I was, say, at college, 17, 18, whatever, that kind of age, I would like girls who were my cohort, who were in the same class as me. I would like a certain girl. It's like, oh, she's really pretty. She's this, she's that. And I would put that girl on a pedestal. Okay, it would be, and to the exclusion of any other girls around. I would put her on a pedestal. Like, oh, she's so amazing. She's so beautiful. She's got these great qualities. She's so intelligent. Whatever it was, all these different things. And actually, that happened a few different times with different girls when I was growing up. There would be one particular girl. I think she's really great. I put her on the pedestal. Over time, and this is the other problem, because when you're in a closed situation, like you're in a college, or you're in a workspace, or you're in anywhere where you are interacting, with the opposite sex on a continuous basis with the same people, what tends to happen is you develop crushes over time. This, people are probably familiar with this if work in an office or whatever. And so the crush that I had on whoever that girl was would increase over time. But I wasn't taking any action, of course. And then over time, the possibility of me taking any action in regard to, asking her for a date or telling her that I liked her or whatever, became less and less, because I liked her more and more over that span of time. And it would feel like the stakes were then higher, if that makes sense. And as I say, this happened with a number of different girls. However, and to be completely transparent, there were also some girls who liked me as well. I remember particularly, when I was at college as a teenager, having a couple of girls who liked me and who indicated to me that they liked me, sometimes in a fairly overt way. I mean, I remember one girl, she used to send me notes and things like this. Her friends would come and tell me, oh, she so-and-so fancies you, she likes you, what's going to happen, are you going to do anything? But the problem was that because I was so fixated on that first girl, the top girl who I put on that pedestal, I didn't then take any opportunity with these other girls who actually did like me, because I thought, well, I don't want to, for a start, I don't want it to get back to the top girl that I really like, because then she won't want to have anything to do with me, I assumed at the time. And also, I think perhaps I was being a little bit overly romantic about it, but there was something, it would have seemed to have cheapened the feeling that I had for that top girl, even though that girl didn't like me, but it was like, oh no, my feelings are only for Maria, so I can't possibly do anything with Emily over here, because if I did, that's going to somehow taint that pure feeling that I have for Maria. And so the net consequence of all of that was that really nothing happened. I didn't lose my virginity as a younger guy or anything like that, which a lot of people do. And then sometimes there were some misfires. Like, I remember there was this one girl who was actually a friend of, one of those top girls, the girl I really, really had a big crush on. Let's call her Samantha. So I had this massive, massive crush on Samantha. But her friend, her friend Stephanie, actually seemed to quite like me. And then you look at, think, well, what did I call the first one? Samantha. I was like, oh, Samantha's great, she's so amazing, she's this, she's that. But actually Stephanie's, actually I can see Stephanie, she's attractive too, she's got her own qualities, and she seems to like me. So then I did start to revert my feelings a little bit. I was like, oh, Stephanie, she kind of, I can tell she likes me. She kind of smiles at me. She kind of, I feel like there's some vibe coming here. Of course, I still wouldn't do anything. I still wouldn't, like take any of the action or anything, or ask her out on a date or anything like that. I mean, God forbid that. But, I sort of enjoyed those feelings of having her like me, or I perceived to like me. And then I remember one time, and this was a terrible sort of red pilling moment, if you like. The scales fell from my eyes. One time there was this guy in the college who was, he was sort of jock kind of character, I suppose you'd say, and he. This is so stupid. He got a syringe from somewhere, not with the needle in it, but just the syringe, plastic syringe thing, and he filled it with, I think it was chocolate milkshake or hot chocolate or something. It was some chocolate kind of thing anyway. Filled it with this. And he had this syringe, and he was going around the college, and basically his plan was to squirt this chocolate onto, any unsuspecting fools that he wanted to pick on. It's like a bully kind of a thing. So I heard about this. I was alerted to this, and so I had a plan, which I'll tell you in a second. But anyway, so he was going around, and I knew I would be one of the targets. Okay, so he was going around with this thing to spray. Anyway, in the end, we're in a corridor or whatever, and he sees me, and he's coming towards me, and he's holding the syringe of doom, the syringe of this chocolate stuff. And I think I'm wearing a white shirt as well, so obviously it's going to be quite, it was going to be quite damaging for me. And he's preparing to squirt me with this stuff, and the girl, what did I call her? The second girl, anyway, who I thought liked me, Stephanie. She's there, and she says to him, "Go on, squirt him. Go on, squirt him." And that was such a profound moment, in a way, because, I mean, it just really shocked me, that sort of feminine cruelty that you witness sometimes. She wanted to see me humiliated. She wanted this alpha male to squirt me, with this stuff, and for me to look foolish and small. She wanted to see that. She wanted to see the blood sports. And, and there was poor, naive me thinking, oh, and she likes me, blah, blah, blah. And I saw in that moment her true colours. But I had a plan, because I'd already been told that what might happen. So I'd got a bottle of water with me. And as the guy's coming towards me with the syringe to squirt me, raised the bottle of water in my hand and chucked it over him. He got absolutely soaked. And then I did a runner, because he was quite big. But the point is, and people were cheering and stuff like that, because it was like, oh, he's outsmarted him. It was quite funny. So the tables were turned. But the fact that she was on his side, or not on his side, the fact that she was encouraging him to do this squirting stayed with me. And obviously I never saw her in the same way again after that. But it was, as I say, it was quite a sort of formative moment for me in terms of understanding human psychology and female psychology, I suppose. Just that cruelty. And obviously kids can be quite cruel anyway. School is a pretty wild environment sometimes. But the fact that, and we have this idea as well, don't we, that women are sort of nurturing and kind and good and all of these kinds of things. And the fact that she was willing to encourage this guy, basically to attack me, to do this thing to me. Very, very resonant moment, I think. And I still remember it all these years later. But anyway, so that's an example, I suppose, of, in that instance, I thought that I'd been selected by her. I thought that she liked me. And I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe she did a little bit. But then this alpha dude came along and suddenly he takes the attention. Who knows? Who knows what the truth of the matter was? But the point is, I thought that I was selected by this woman, and then very crudely, it was demonstrated to me that actually I wasn't. Okay, very, very crushing. And there were other instances as well where, you know, I put one of these women on a pedestal, one of these girls on a pedestal. I was like, oh, you know, I can't think of anybody else but Maria, whatever. And I remember one time, one of these girls, you know, she took me out for a walk, and she basically said to me, listen, Troy, you know, I think you're a great guy, which is always bad news when they start like that. I think you're a great guy, you're really nice, but I don't see you like that. And it was, you know, it was, I realised then that this stuff was going to be difficult. I realised then that this was not going to be easy. And it was strange because I've been brought up on Hollywood movies and sitcoms and things where the guy gets the girl, you know, like and the nerdy guy gets the girl as well. You know, and maybe there's some trials and tribulations along the way, but in the end, she sees through the nerdiness. She sees that the guy with the syringe, who's the jock, she sees what a jerk he is, and that the nerdy guy who likes books and who likes reading and who's quite quiet and likes sitting at home on his own, that guy is the guy that she should really be with. And so they get together and they live happily ever after. So I'd taken in a lot of that sort of stuff when I was growing up. And also, my parents were fairly, like my dad, bless him, I don't want to say he was blue pill, because I think that is, my dad, bless him, is not a naive man by any stretch of the imagination, but in the particular case of dating advice, and perhaps it was just because he'd come from a different generation, but the way that he presented it to me was pretty straightforward. You know, you like the girl, go and ask her out, you guys go on a date, happy days. You know, he didn't prepare me, and actually nobody prepared me for what I found to be the realities of dating, which was that actually it was a bit of a jungle. It was it was brutal. It was quite brutal out there. And the girls who I was in college with, who I thought were the nice girls, you know, the girls who seemed very nice and polite and sweet, and I sort of, you have this idea in your head, don't you, of the kind of girl that might like you. And I would look at those girls and think, well, she will probably like me because she seems quite refined and quite sweet. She doesn't seem like the type of one of those tacky girls, you know, who's going to like these jock characters who drive around fast in their cars and play loud music. You know, she's going to want the sweet, sensitive, artistic type like me. And then I'd see these girls going off with the loud jock who's, you know, driving the banger of a car and playing loud rave music out of the windows. And I'm like, well, how did that happen? You know, why did she not like me? You know, because I thought of myself as more the intelligent woman's choice. You know, we have these fantasies about ourselves in our heads, don't we? And I sort of thought, well, I'm for the more, you know, I'm not for the 304s, but I'm the more sort of refined, sophisticated woman, you know, girl's choice. She's going to like me because of my amazing qualities, my knowledge of Franz Kafka and George Orwell and, you know, whatever it was. Absolute nonsense. The reality of the dating marketplace blew all of that out of the water very quickly, very quickly. I wasn't selected. I was actually by a few girls, but I wasn't selected by the girls that I wanted. And they had no difficulty in making me very aware of that, you know? And I got kicked in the face, metaphorically, a few times as a younger guy, trying to sort of navigate the getting into the dating world. You know, I got sand kicked in my face quite a number of times, to the point where, really, I sort of gave up. You know, and I was starting to have very thoughts of self-loathing and what would now look like the kinds of things that you would see in comment sections written by people who are doomers. You know, this idea like, oh, it must be because of my looks. It must be because I'm not good looking enough. I don't meet the minimum standards required by girls. Therefore, if Sheila in my college has rejected me, probably what women want is pretty standard overall. So if she's rejected me, which she now has, what does that mean? Well, that means that the likelihood is that every other woman is going to pretty much feel the same, because, you know, it's got to be pretty standard what they look for, right? I don't make the minimum requirements necessary to be selected physically by women. And I started to then believe that narrative. I started to have that narrative playing around my head. I started to buy into it and believe it. And it made me incredibly unhappy and very melancholy. But at the same time, there was a sort of a comfort in that melancholy as well, if that makes sense. There was a sort of a, I could go into this cocoon of loneliness and self-pity and self-loathing. But self-pity is a very powerful drug in a way. I mean, I go to recovery meetings now for alcohol and other things, and I sometimes hear people say my first drug of choice was self-pity. And it was for me, really. Well, the first one really was fantasy, but after that, self-pity. And there's something kind of warm and familiar and comfortable about wallowing in self-pity, and so that's what I did. But it was very painful at the same time, because I saw very quickly, as I say, I went from the fantasies of the movies and maybe what my dad had said and everything, to seeing actually this was a Darwinian, brutal thing, this dating scene, and it wasn't going to be a walk in the park, and so then I went to university, and really I didn't do anything for the first couple of years. I then got into drinking. I got into, taking party drugs. Like, the rave scene was really big at that time, and so on. And I didn't really even attempt to date, because I just assumed, well, I'm not good enough. It's off the cards for me. It's not for me. It's for other people. And the pain that makes you feel, the low self-esteem, the feeling that you feel like you are not worthy as a human being, because you don't even make the basic minimum standard. Then actually, when you look around, billions of people across the world, get married, fall in love, get married, have kids, whatever. You don't even make that minimum standard, and that's very, 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 very painful for a guy, and for a woman, but obviously mainly talking to guys here. That was very painful for a guy, and quite damaging, I think. Now, was my perception correct? Well, no, because, as I say, when you track it back, really, a couple of things were causing the problem. One of the things that was causing the problem was my absolute fear of rejection. If I'd have got over that, maybe things would have been different, because I would have just asked, tried to date more girls, and probably one of them would have liked me. And the other thing was, as I say, I was also not proceeding with anything with the girls who actually did like me, which makes no sense, because there were these girls who actually did like me and indicated they liked me, and I just pushed them to one side because I was fixated on, whoever it was, Samantha, the queen at the top here. Which again is a very stupid thing to do. What I should have done was said, okay, well, Samantha doesn't like me, fine, whatever. I'm going to go and date Jane over here instead. And then, I would have got some dating experience, I would have had some positive reference experiences, and things would have been very different. So it is painful out there, and this was back, people talk about now, like, Instagram and Tinder and OnlyFans and all this stuff. But that brutality in terms of dating was always around. We're talking about the early 90s here. Yeah, man, it was tough. It was tough then, and it's tough now. It's probably tougher now, but it wasn't a walk in the park then either, I can tell you. All right, well, that was a little trip down memory lane. I hope you enjoyed that. The good news is, there is a way out. There is a solution, and I know that because I found it myself. And if you resonate with any of the things in this video, then I can help you, because I have walked a very, very long journey since then. And that has had many twists and turns, but I am now able to diagnose with a great deal of precision where people are going wrong in terms of dating and what needs to be done to fix it, okay? Because I've studied this stuff for a long time. I've been through the journey myself, and that's why I'm one of the best coaches on the planet, because very few people other than me really have the understanding and the empathy and also the ability to diagnose with precision and then articulate what's happened, what you need to do now, and where you can get to. And so, yeah, I offer a very unique bespoke service in that regard. So if you're interested in that, drop me an email. You'll see the link below. You can book me a free call. You can book a free call with me via my Calendly link, which is below. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do buy my books. I've got a collection of 11 books called Renegade Dating Blueprint about all of this different stuff. Lots more memories, lots more actionable advice, loads and loads of material in there. So grab that, and I will see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.